All right, welcome back, everyone. You guys asked for it, a deep dive into some of the most epic tales, really, from the Bible, the stories of giants.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to focus on two giants in particular. We've got Og, the king of Bashan, and, of course, the giant whose name is basically, it's synonymous with impossible challenge, Goliath.
Yep, Goliath.
But we're not just going to kind of rehash the stories that we all know. We're going to unpack like what makes these figures so compelling and what their stories might reveal about, about human nature and the power of faith, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. These aren't just, they're not just Sunday school stories.
Right.
They really have this timeless quality that resonates, I think, across, cultures and generations. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a depth here that speaks to, I think, our shared human experience.
Yeah, it's not just about size and strength.
Right.
Like, for example, Og's story, it involves a bed made of iron, battles with implications that reach like far beyond the battlefield.
Yeah. And then, when we get to Goliath, we'll be talking about a champion's unusual weapon and a confrontation that had, implications far beyond a simple duel.
For sure. For sure.
So let's dive in. Let's dive in with Og, the king of Bashan.
Okay.
He was described as the last of the remnant of the giants,
Wow.
called the Rephaim, which already just sounds pretty intimidating, right?
Yeah. The term Rephaim in Hebrew, it's associated with powerful warriors, beings of immense stature, but they're more than just big and strong.
Yeah.
They're often linked to the underworld in ancient Near Eastern beliefs.
Oh, wow.
This connection adds another layer to the story because Og, as the last of the Rephaim represents, like the fading power of an older world, a world that the Israelites, with their new God, were destined to overthrow.
Wow, that's fascinating. So we're not just talking about a physical battle here.
No.
We're talking about a clash of worldviews.
Right.
A struggle between the old and the new.
Yeah, and Og was the king of Bashan, which wasn't just any old piece of land.
Right. Bashan was known for its incredible fertility.
Okay.
It was a highly desirable territory.
Wow.
Strategically located and rich in resources.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever controlled Bashan, they held significant influence and wealth. And Og, as the last of the Rephaim ruling over this abundant land, you can see how he would have been seen as a truly formidable opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine like the psychological impact on the Israelites encountering such a foe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the sources describe his bed as being made of iron.
Really?
And a whopping 13.5 feet long.
Yow.
And 6 feet wide.
I mean, that's larger than life right there.
Yeah. I mean, that image really drives home the point that this guy was, gigantic.
What do you think? I mean, was that like a typical bed size for a Rephaim, or was Og just trying to make a statement?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, we don't have enough information to know for sure.
It's likely that the description of his bed is meant to emphasize, his extraordinary strength and stature. But it's also possible that the size is exaggerated, for dramatic effect, to really drive home the point of how powerful this enemy was. It's like an ancient form of psychological warfare.
Right. Okay, so the Israelites are facing this incredibly powerful king and his army in a battle for control of this incredibly valuable land. The odds are definitely not in their favor.
Right.
But here's where the story, I think, takes a turn.
Okay.
They actually win.
Wow.
With God's help, they completely defeat Og and his entire army. Talk about a David and Goliath moment, but on a much larger scale.
It's interesting. This victory wasn't just a military triumph. It was really a theological statement. The Israelites, outnumbered and outmatched, they attributed their success to, divine intervention.
Right.
This reinforced their faith in God's promise to deliver them to the promised land and solidified their claim to the land they were conquering.
Yeah, and it was a decisive victory that had a ripple effect throughout the region. The sources say that the Israelites destroyed all 60 of Og's fortified cities, leaving no survivors. This wasn't just about conquest, it was about sending a very clear message.
It was. This complete destruction served, I think, a very strategic purpose.
Yeah.
It eliminated any potential for, future uprisings or threats from Og's territory.
Okay.
And demonstrated the unwavering power of the Israelite God to the surrounding nations. Think of it as shock and awe in the ancient world.
Wow. Yeah, it definitely sent shockwaves through Canaan. The people there who had heard tales of Og's strength and might, they were suddenly terrified.
Yeah.
They realized that even the strongest fortifications were no match for the God of Israel.
This victory over Og the last of the Rephaim, wasn't just about land or military power. It was about establishing, I think, a new order, a new way of life guided by a new God.
Right.
Og's defeat signaled the end of an era and the beginning of the Israelite ascendancy in the region.
And Og's defeat was a pivotal moment for the Israelites.
It was.
But their journey was far from over. Their next challenge would come in the form of a giant whose name has echoed, throughout history.
Yeah.
Goliath.
Oh, yeah. Goliath. Now, Goliath, he wasn't just any giant.
Right.
He was a Philistine champion. And the Philistines, well, they were a constant, thorn in the side of the Israelites.
Right.
They were vying for control of the same land.
Okay.
And their conflict, well, it was about more than just territory. It was a clash of cultures and religions and ways of life.
So the stakes were pretty high.
Oh, absolutely.
And Goliath, he was their secret weapon.
Yeah, yeah.
A symbol of their strength and military might.
Exactly. He was a walking embodiment of the Philistine threat.
Wow.
He would march out in front of the Israelite army and taunt them.
Right.
Challenging them to send someone to fight him, one-on-one.
Okay.
It was a tactic designed to demoralize the Israelites, and break their spirit before the battle even began.
Oh, wow. So the sources, they paint a pretty vivid picture of Goliath.
Yes, they do.
They describe him as being around 9 feet, 9 inches tall.
Wow.
And decked out, head to toe, in heavy bronze armor.
Oh, yeah?
I can't even imagine trying to move in all that gear, let alone fight. What do you think, what was the purpose of all that armor? Was it just for show, or did it give him, a real advantage in battle?
Oh, it definitely gave him a real advantage.
Okay.
The Philistines were known for their advanced metalworking skills.
Right.
And Goliath's armor, it represented the cutting edge of military technology at the time.
Wow.
His bronze helmet, coat of mail, greaves, and javelin.
Right.
Not to mention the large shield carried by his shield bearer.
Right.
All added up to a formidable defense.
Okay.
It would have been incredibly difficult for an Israelite soldier to even land a blow on him.
So he was like a walking tank.
He was.
Protected by the best technology at the time. And he wasn't just big and well-equipped. He was also, he was a skilled warrior.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources describe his weapons in detail.
They do.
A massive spear with an iron head that could probably skewer a small car.
Wow.
And a javelin slung between his shoulders.
He was clearly a force to be reckoned with, both physically and psychologically.
Right.
Imagine being an Israelite soldier looking up at this mountain of muscle and metal.
Right.
Fear would be a completely rational response.
Oh, I can only imagine. So Goliath marches out, decked out in all of his impressive armor, and starts hurling, insults and challenges at the Israelite army.
Yeah.
He's taunting their courage, their strength, even the power of their God.
Yes.
What do you think was going through the minds of, the Israelite soldiers as they listened to these taunts?
They must have been terrified.
Right.
Here they were facing this, seemingly invincible giant who was not only challenging them, militarily, but also mocking their faith. Remember, the Israelites believed that their God had chosen them.
Right.
And would fight for them.
Right.
Goliath's challenges directly undermine that belief, creating a crisis of faith within the Israelite camp.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So Goliath's taunts, they weren't just about intimidating the Israelites. They were about shaking their faith in their God.
Exactly.
And the sources say that the Israelites were utterly terrified.
Huh.
For weeks, no one dared to answer his challenge.
It's understandable.
But then a young shepherd named David, he enters the picture.
Oh, yes, David.
He's not a soldier.
Right.
He's not even armed for battle in the traditional sense.
Right.
He just has a sling and some stones.
Yeah. What do you think motivated David to step forward when seasoned soldiers were too afraid to face Goliath?
Yeah, what was driving him?
Well, David's motivation stemmed from his unwavering faith in God.
Okay.
He saw Goliath's taunts not just as a challenge to the Israelite army,
Right.
but as a direct affront to God himself. He was filled with a righteous anger.
Wow.
And a deep conviction that God would grant him victory, even against such impossible odds.
Right.
David's faith wasn't just a passive belief. It was an active force that compelled him to act.
Okay, so, and his response to Goliath, it's one of the most powerful declarations of faith, I think, in the Bible.
It is.
He says, you come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel. It's almost as if he's saying, my strength doesn't come from my weapons, it comes from my God.
Yeah.
And then in this, incredible showdown, David, with one perfectly aimed stone from his sling, brings Goliath crashing down.
It's an amazing story.
It is. I mean, was David truly fearless, or was his faith masking like a very human terror?
That's a question that has been debated, for centuries.
Right.
I think it's likely that David experienced a mix of emotions: fear, determination, and an unshakable trust in God.
Okay.
It's important to remember that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to act despite fear.
Right.
David's story is so compelling because it speaks to that very human experience of facing our fears and choosing to act anyway, even when the odds seem stacked against us.
Yeah, I mean, David's victory over Goliath, it's one of the most famous underdog stories
Oh, for sure.
of all time.
It is, yeah.
But it's more than just, a thrilling tale.
Right.
It's a story that continues to resonate with us because it speaks to something like, I don't know, deep within the human spirit.
Absolutely.
Right.
David's victory wasn't just a personal triumph.
Right.
It had a profound impact on, the entire Israelite community, I think.
Okay.
It boosted their morale, it restored their confidence, and ultimately contributed to their victory over the Philistines.
So it's not just about, individual courage.
Yes.
It's about the power of belief to transform not just individuals, but, whole communities.
Absolutely.
Right. And that kind of brings us back to our original question. Why do these stories of biblical giants, why do they still matter to us today? I mean, we've got Og,
Right.
the last of a mysterious race representing overwhelming obstacles, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the Goliath,
Right.
the embodiment of intimidation and doubt.
Right.
I mean, what can we learn from these figures?
I think the enduring appeal of these stories, it lies in the fact that they tap into, our primal fears and our deep-seated longing for courage and meaning in the face of adversity.
Okay.
We all face challenges in life, situations that make us feel small and powerless.
Right.
But these stories remind us that no matter how big the challenge,
Right.
no matter how daunting the opponent, we're never truly alone.
Okay.
There's a source of strength we can tap into.
Right.
A wellspring of courage that can help us face our own, metaphorical giants.
It's like they're saying, hey, that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, of facing something that seems impossible.
Yeah.
We've been there, and guess what?
Yeah.
You can overcome it.
You can.
Right.
And that's where the real power of these stories lies, I think.
Right.
They offer a blueprint for facing our fears and overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
Okay.
They teach us that true strength doesn't always come from physical prowess or outward displays of power.
Right.
It's about the inner fortitude, the resilience of spirit that allows us to keep going even when things get tough.
It's about that inner voice that says, I can do this, even if it's hard, even if I'm scared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that inner strength is often fueled by something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Whether it's faith, a sense of purpose, or the support of a community, we can draw on those sources of strength to face our giants, with courage and conviction.
And that's something I think both of these stories really highlight.
Yeah.
The Israelites weren't facing their giants alone.
No, they weren't.
They had each other, and they had their faith in a God who they believed would fight for them.
That sense of community, of shared belief and purpose, it can be incredibly empowering.
Okay.
It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
Right.
We have people we can lean on.
Right.
Resources we can draw from.
Yeah.
And a shared strength that can help us overcome even the most daunting challenges.
So maybe the real takeaway here is that we all have giants in our lives, those things that loom large and threaten to overwhelm us.
Yeah.
But we also have the capacity for incredible courage and resilience.
We do.
We can choose to face those giants.
Right.
Not with, fear and trembling, but with the strength that comes from faith, community, and a belief in our own ability to overcome.
So as you go forward, I encourage you to remember the stories of Og and Goliath.
Right.
Remember that you have the power within you to face your giants.
Right.
And remember that you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah.
Reach out to those around you. Draw strength from your beliefs. And never give up on the possibility of victory.
That's great. Well, what a great way to wrap up our deep dive into biblical giants.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep diving.